the pumping system just days after opening up the outage, which caused severe crashes.
First, here in the country, waterways in Caraga region may overflow due to rain from the trough of Tropical Storm Maring, international name Kompasu. The trough may bring to Caraga heavy rainfall that cause widespread waterways or that can cause waterways there to overflow, according to Pagasa hydrologist Richard Orendine on Saturday. Communities in the region must brace for flooding of nearby low-lying and poorly drained areas, he noted. He also said the trough already began bringing light rains to the region. Pagasa, located Maring at 820 kilometers east of Virac Municipality in Catanduanes Province of Bicol Region, as of 10 a.m. today, Maring is moving west-northwestwards at 15 kilometers per hour, packing maximum sustained winds of 85 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 105 kilometers per hour. Pagasa said moderate to heavy rainfall is possible this Saturday in Catanduanes, Dinagat Islands, and eastern Visayas. Light to moderate with at times heavy rainfall may occur over northern Palawan Province, Occidental and Oriental Mindoro provinces, as well as remaining areas of Bicol, Caraga, and the Visayas. Aside from flooding, Pagasa said rain-induced landslides may result from the expected rainfall.
In other news, the first official clinical definition of living with post-COVID sickness has been agreed upon following global consultation and release to help boost treatment for sufferers. That, according to the UN Health Organization or the World Health Organization on Friday. Now, the emerging illness, which is also referred to as long COVID among many other similar iterations, occurs in individuals who have had confirmed or probable new coronavirus infections, usually 3 months from the onset of the COVID-19.
It occurs in individuals with a history of probable or confirmed SARS-CoV-2 infection, usually 3 months from the onset of the COVID-19, with symptoms that last for at least 2 months and cannot be explained by an alternative diagnosis. Common symptoms include fatigue, shortness of breath, cognitive dysfunction, but also others which generally have an impact on everyday functioning. Symptoms may be new onset following the initial recovery from the acute episode or persist from the initial illness. And then symptoms can also fluctuate or relapse over time. This is an important step forward to standardize the recognition of patients living with post-COVID-19 condition. We hope it will help clinicians and health workers recognize patients and start them on appropriate treatments and interventions and care pathways. We hope that policymakers and health systems will set up and implement integrated care models to care for these patients.
Protests exist for the initial COVID-19 infection. There is no such solution for post-COVID-19 condition, and it is still unclear exactly what triggers it in sufferers.
Meanwhile, Metro Manila may see a decrease of as low as 1,000 in average daily new cases of coronavirus disease or COVID-19 by November this year if the region maintains the downward trend in its case count. That according to the Department of Health. Let's listen in.
So if we will look at our daily cases, we will be averaging about 1,100 cases by November 15, daily cases dito sa National Capital Region. Kung magtutuloy-tuloy po yan at may pagpapatuloy po natin ang pagkontrol nitong transmission ng sakit na ito, sana po tayo po ay lahat ay nag-hope that by Christmas time, magkakaroon po tayo na mas maluwag na classification and restriction sa ating mga kababayan. But looking at the case data right now, tinitignan po natin at kung mauumpisahan na rin po natin ang pagbabakuna, umpisahan natin ng those with comorbidity sa mga kabataan, kung atin pong maitutuloy-tuloy at mag-stabilize ang ating supplies, meron naman hong posibilidad.
Vergere said the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases is set to discuss next week the possibility of expanding the COVID-19 alert level system outside Metro Manila. The NCR is under alert level 4 from September 16 until October 15.
Chinese President Xi Jinping reaffirmed Beijing's support for reunification with self-ruled Taiwan days after sending a record number of warplanes near the island to put pressure on its democratically elected government. Xi was speaking during a speech to mark the 110th anniversary of a revolution that ended millennia of imperial rule and led to the founding of the Republic of China.
祖国完全统一的历史任务一定要实现，也一定能够实现。台独分裂是祖国统一的最大障碍，是民族复兴的严重隐患。凡是数典忘祖、背叛祖国、分裂国家的人，从来没有好下场，必将遭到人民的唾弃和历史的审判。台湾问题纯属中国内政，不容任何外来干涉。任何人都不要低估中国人民捍卫国家主权和领土完整的坚强决心、坚定意志、强大能力。
Self-governed Taiwan, which has never formally declared independence, lives under the constant threat of invasion by China, which views the island as its territory and has vowed to one day seize it by force if necessary. Beijing has ramped up pressure on Taiwan Taipei since the 2016 election of President Tsai Ing-wen, who views the island as already independent. Tsai is scheduled to speak Sunday at an event commemorating the 1911 revolution, one of the few events that unite China and Taiwan. Taiwan's defense minister said Wednesday that military tensions with China were at their highest in 4 decades after around 150 Chinese warplanes, a record number, made incursions into Taiwan's air defense zone in recent days. Xi's warning comes after Britain last week sent a warship through the Taiwan Strait, challenging Beijing's claim to the sensitive waterway, and a French delegation visited Taiwan despite warnings from China.
And U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai spoke with Chinese Vice Premier Liu He on Friday to discuss Chinese commercial practices that Washington deems unfair. Now, this was the second consultation between the chief trade negotiators from the world's 2 biggest economies after relations were damaged under former U.S. President Donald Trump. The two last spoke in May. Now, Tai underscored U.S. concerns relating to China's state-led non-market policies and practices that harm American workers, farmers, and businesses, according to the USTR. The Biden administration says China's massive state subsidies for national companies, intellectual property theft, and other factors create a heavy uneven playing field in trade. Trump imposed tariffs on Chinese products worth $370 billion in 2018, citing trade practices Washington deemed unfair. The Chinese side it asked the U.S. to lift sanctions and abolish additional tariffs of up to 25% on Chinese imports. The two countries have agreed in principle that President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping will hold talks online by the end of the year.
The Swiss government has signed a contract with the American firm Janssen, part of the Johnson & Johnson group of companies, to purchase 150,000 doses of its COVID-19 vaccine. John Glauser has that story.
Switzerland has signed a contract with Janssen, the company member of the group Johnson & Johnson, to widen the offer of vaccine against COVID-19. 150,000 doses will be received and then distributed among the different cantons at the beginning of next week. This vaccine from Janssen will be the third one to be used in Switzerland and will mainly be given to people that can't receive the other vaccines available with ARNM for medical reasons. It is indeed recommended for people above 12 years old to be vaccinated with the ones with ARNM, as these vaccines are sure and offer a very good protection. However, it is recommended by the Federal Commission for Vaccinations and the Federal Office of Public Health to be vaccinated with the Janssen vaccine for people over 18 years old who can't receive the vaccines with ARNM or refuse to be vaccinated with them. But this recommendation does not include pregnant women and immunodeficient people who are still recommended to get one of the two other vaccines used in the country, either Moderna or Pfizer. This vaccine from Janssen, which is a one-dose vaccine, protects from the severe forms of COVID-19 and from hospitalization. This is the sixth contract signed by Switzerland for different vaccine doses, with Moderna and Pfizer vaccines being the only ones used up to today. This is John Kevin Glauser reporting from Geneva, Switzerland. We live in interesting times.
And more pandemic news. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau makes good of his election promise to increase vaccination rates in the country, one of which is amending rules regarding public transportation. Here's Cherry Recolizado from our EBC Canada Bureau.
The federal and local governments of Canada imposes more rules which aim to increase vaccination rates across the country. On Wednesday, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau mandated that by October 30th, all federal public service transportation employees must be fully vaccinated. Along with this, all travelers departing from Canadian airports and railroads must be fully vaccinated.
Proof of vaccination will be required by no later than the end of this month for all federal employees. And by mid-November, enforcement measures in place will make sure that everyone is vaccinated. This is about keeping people safe on the job and in their communities. And the same goes for the second commitment we made, mandatory vaccination on travel. By the end of October, everyone 12 or older on a plane or train within Canada should be fully vaccinated.
A short transition period is given to those who are in the process of becoming fully vaccinated. During this period, travelers may present a negative COVID-19 test prior to boarding. However, the transition period ends on November 30th.
By the end of November, if you're 12 or older and want to fly or take the train, you'll have to be fully vaccinated, as will staff. Testing will no longer be an option before boarding.
The Government of Canada emphasizes the need for vaccination in order to travel, and more importantly, the need to keep everyone safe.
Let's be clear. There will only be a few extremely narrow exceptions, like a valid medical condition. For the vast majority of people, the rules are very simple. To travel, you've got to be vaccinated. These travel measures, along with mandatory vaccination for federal employees, are some of the strongest in the world. Because when it comes to keeping you and your family safe, when it comes to avoiding lockdowns for everyone, this is no time for half measures.
In Toronto, Cherry Recolizado, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Britain has seen more than 2 weeks of queues and panic buying at petrol stations. Frustrations have boiled over into anger in some places, and violence even broke out between motorists desperate to fill up. Shortfalls in drivers and foreign workers have raised fears of a more general shortages, with supermarkets struggling to stock up before the holidays. We have Kathleen Eusebio of our ABC UK Bureau with that story.
Here's an update in the United Kingdom. The UK has sourced less than 10% of the 300 European Union lorry drivers earmarked for immediate short-term visas to help ease the country's post-Brexit fuel supply crisis, the government confirmed Tuesday, following confusion over the exact number issued. In a round of broadcast interviews Tuesday morning, Prime Minister Boris Johnson insisted 127 applications had been received, filling nearly half the total available, and disputed an overnight newspaper claim that it was just 27. But hours later, the government confirmed it had only received 27 names for the visas and did not respond to questions about Johnson's assertion that it was nearly 5 times that number. Britain has seen more than 2 weeks of queues and panic buying at petrol stations, particularly in London and southeast England, after supply issues initially prompted the temporary closure of a small number of retailers.
It's just panic buying, I guess. Just people are unsure, and like the rumors get started and they don't know what to do, and they're just panicking and buying and stocking up, even though it's not necessary so much. Yeah, we have to drive our children to school every day, so we have to have some petrol, and like we were running out, so we have to get up early in the morning and try to look for some.
It's been a really, really awful situation. I personally didn't know this was happening, so I ran out of petrol last Saturday and haven't had petrol since. Obviously, you guys saw me, and it did get quite emotional and heated. I've got my 2-year-old to get to nursery. I run 2 businesses. I'm all over London. I need to have something in my tank, The government knows how powerful words are and certain stories can be. So when this whole thing started with the whole HGV drivers, they should have anticipated a human response. Just like a human response happened with COVID. Everyone ran out and bought things. There isn't a shortage, but people are making there be a shortage.
The following run on the pumps has intensified the delivery problems in the tanker and wider haulage sector, with post-Brexit immigration controls blamed for worsening a long-running driver shortage. In response, the government has deployed scores of drivers from the army to help make fuel deliveries in the coming weeks. It also announced last week that 300 6-month visas for tanker drivers would be issued immediately as part of a total of 10,500 new temporary visas for lorry drivers and poultry workers, valid only for 3 to 4 months. Fuel retailers reported the situation in the capital and its surrounding counties was improving Tuesday, with just 50% of petrol stations completely dry. Johnson insisted the shortage of lorry drivers was a global issue, although he acknowledged a particular problem in the UK. Shortfalls in drivers and foreign workers have raised fears of more general shortages. But Johnson again refused to ease entry rules further for foreign workers, even as leaders of several sectors, including retail and hospitality, say they lack staff.
And the answer to the present stresses and strains, which are mainly a function of growth and economic revival, is not to reach for that same old lever of uncontrolled immigration, to keep wages low. The answer is to control immigration, to allow people of talent to come to this country, but not to use immigration as an excuse for failure to invest in people, in skills, and in the equipment, the facilities, the machinery.
Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I'm Kathleen Eusebio. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Kathleen. And Eagle News, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. Facebook on Friday said users around the world again had problems accessing its services for hours due to a tweak of its system just days after a massive outage caused in a similar fashion. Now, earlier, an IT security expert said it didn't appear that Facebook thought through this kind of a situation. Let's listen in.
Not only were their properties offline, their ability to respond and do PR and do some of the other things you would do in a major incident like this were also impacted, and they didn't natively have a backup plan. When something like this happens, you kind of know what your backup, you need to know what your backup plan is instead of making it up on the fly. And it didn't appear that Facebook fully thought through this kind of a situation. For these kind of outages, it's usually some form of human error combined with a lack of a technical control to prevent that kind of error creating this kind of major failure. There's a couple of very old protocols that basically govern how the internet works, and minor mistakes can have catastrophic impacts if people don't know what they're doing. Even random typos could just blow things up in unexpected ways.
Now, website Trouble Tracker Down Detector showed spikes in reports of problems accessing or using Facebook and its photocentric Instagram network, as well as Messenger and WhatsApp, starting about 3 hours earlier. Facebook attributed the trouble to a configuration change at its computing platform and said that it affected users of the social network and Instagram, Messenger, and Workplace globally. People flocked to Twitter to voice frustration. What's up with Instagram? We had a tweet that included a picture of cartoon character Bart Simpson sitting in a corner in apparent punishment. Hundreds of millions of people were unable to access Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp for more than 6 hours Monday, underscoring the world's reliance on platforms owned by the Silicon Valley giant. Cyber experts think that problem boiled down to something called BGP, or Border Gateway Protocol, the system the internet uses to pick the quickest route to move packets of information around. Sammy Slim of data center company Telehouse compared BGP to the internet equivalent of air traffic control. The outage on Friday, meanwhile, was not related to the one earlier in the week, according to Facebook. And experts say Facebook's technical infrastructure is unusually reliant on its own systems.
The United Nations voiced alarm Friday at Myanmar's military junta deploying heavy weapons and troops to particular townships, fearing for the civilian population. Now, the Office of the UN High Commission for Human Rights said the deployment of two high-ranking commanders represented a worrying escalation in the situation.
Alarming reports indicate that there has been substantial deployment of heavy weapons and troops by the Myanmar military, the Tatmadaw, over the past few weeks in Kanpidlet and Hakka townships in Chin State, Kani and Moniwa townships in the central Sagang region, and Gangwa township in Magwe. 2 high-level commanders have also been deployed to this area, and the internet has been shut down. We are gravely concerned by these developments, particularly given the intensifying attacks by the military that we've been documenting over the past month in these areas, including killings, raiding of villages, and burning of houses, apparently to seek out armed resistance elements and as reprisals against villagers who are perceived to be sympathetic to the People's Defense Forces or ethnic armed groups. There have been reports of mass arrests as well as torture and summary executions. Military clearance operations have involved the use of artillery barrages and airstrikes against villages. The internet shutdowns have also meant that millions of people have lost the means to communicate with each other and to obtain information necessary for their survival.
Last month, Myanmar military spokesman Sam Minton said opposition groups known as the National Unity Government were trying to destabilize the country but were headed for failure. The spokesman also accused media outlets of spreading fake news on the situation in Myanmar, according to Reuters. Myanmar's envoy to the United Nations has called on the UN and its member states to stand with the democratic aspiration of the people of the people of his country. Now, Ambassador Kiang Mo-tun addressed the UN General Assembly's Human Committee in New York on Thursday. He said the people of Myanmar and the National Unity Government need international support to eliminate military dictatorship and emerge as an inclusive, democratic, and peaceful country.
In other news, the United States and the Taliban will hold their first in-person talks since the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan starting today, according to the State Department. The U.S. delegation will meet Saturday and Sunday in the Qatari capital Doha with senior Taliban representatives, according to the State Department spokesperson. The U.S. has remained in contact with the Taliban since the longtime foe seized Kabul in August as U.S. troops pulled out, but the meeting will be the first that is face-to-face. The State Department stressed that the meeting didn't indicate that the U.S. was recognizing Taliban rule in Afghanistan. The U.S. team will also press President Joe Biden key priority of letting U.S. citizens and Afghan allies during the 20-year military operation to leave the country. The U.S. says that the Taliban have largely cooperated on letting out U.S. citizens. Around 100 remain, predominantly U.S. citizens with roots in Afghanistan who are undecided on whether to leave, according to U.S. officials.
The number of Afghans attempting to cross the border to Iran has soared since the Taliban swept to power almost 2 months ago, but few make it across, according to an official.
ما این دفعه سوم که دیوار میپریم میریم اون طرف مرز تا که میریم از اینجا 100 کی 500 متر طرف ما رو ول میکنیم که برو اونجا بعد خود ما میریم از دیوار میپریم و تیراندازی شد پریشب 2 نفر یک رفیق ما کشته شد یکم زخمی خب امروز اومدیم دوباره باز دو شب رفتیم دوباره ما رو گرفته لط و کوب روی سر ما لغت میزنه میگه بابا چی خبر شما غیر مجاز میاد کشور مردم چیکار کنیم ما با چی بگویم بس میگیم فقر و گرسنگی و بدبختی ملت ما رو ببین میریم اون دیگه چاره ما چی
Before the Taliban came to power on August 15, around 1,000 to 2,000 people crossed to Iran through the Zaranj border station in the southwestern province of Nimroz every month. But the border commander for Nimroz province, Mohammed Hashem Hazzadeh, told AFP this week that the number of people attempting to cross has since soared to between 3,000 to 4,000 every day. The high comes as devastating economic and humanitarian crisis lash Afghanistan, with the UN warning that a third of the population faces the threat of famine.
In other news, at least 5 people were killed when a block of flats partly collapsed in Georgia's Black Sea resort of Batumi, according to police today, blaming unsafe renovation work. for the accident. Around 5 floors of the building collapsed on Friday, crushing several cars parked outside and leaving up to 15 people missing under the rubble, according to police. 3 people have been arrested in a probe into the collapse, according to the statement, identifying them as the owner of a ground floor apartment and 2 construction workers he had hired. Investigators found that the 2 men acting on the owner's orders were working in gross violation of safety rules, leading to the collapse of an entrance into the building. If convicted, the 3 risk between 2 and 10 years in prison.
A water shortage and a rain of ashes are making matters worse to the banana farmers of the island of La Palma, still reeling from a September 26 volcanic eruption.
Por lo que sabemos que tenemos lo que es las vías principales de riego, las tenemos anuladas por la lava, por lo tanto no tenemos agua con que regar nuestras explotaciones, por lo que se están planteando medidas urgentes como desaladoras y otras medidas para poder, aunque sea, mantener la platanera viva para un futuro.
Cuando serena por la noche, cae rocío por la noche, la arena se pega con el agua del rocío, entonces no sale por la mañana, no sale. Y tienes que, eso se pega al plátano, y cuando se pega al plátano, que tú lo vas a tocar, a manipular, lo araña. Entonces cuando tú lo vas a comprar al mercado, ves ese plátano todo arañado y no lo quieres. Y realmente no tiene nada.
The volcano has caused huge damage to banana plantations in La Palma, the second largest producer in the Atlantic Canary Islands, where the crop accounts for 50% of the island's economy, according to industry figures. Once the black grit lands on the bananas, it is almost impossible to remove, and it causes further damage in the handling, transport, and packing, with the huge bunches, which are known as pineapples, and can weigh up to 70 kilos or 150 pounds carried on the shoulders. The skin blackens in the form of a scratch, but nothing like the brownish black markings known as bruises, which show the fruit is ripe. And although the banana is perfect, it is rejected and cannot be sold. The plantations are also suffering from a lack of water after the lava destroyed the area's irrigation pipeline. More than 80% of the banana plantations in the Canaries are modest plots of less than 2.5 acres or 1 hectare, with many farmers living hand to mouth.
To California now, day 3, spectators reacted as the Pacific Air Show comes to an abrupt stop after a huge oil spill impacts the Huntington Beach region, leaking up to 144,000 gallons of oil. Here's Eva Basalyahe for the report.
Workers stacked chairs and put away tables meant for spectators at this 3rd and final day of the Pacific Air Show. Unfortunately for flight fans, today's event was canceled due to an oil spill that impacted Huntington Beach.
The Huntington Beach Pacific Air Show here in Huntington Beach, California. And it's a 3-day event, starts Friday through Sunday. And so usually everybody comes out, to watch the air show. And also they come out via the beach, or they anchor up their boats out in the water just outside of the pier.
They didn't have a lot of air shows last year, and especially not up in our neck of the woods. But so this would have been nice to see. So it's a little disappointing.
I did come here 2 years ago, and it was really nice. I did come here yesterday and the day before as well to watch the 2 days that went. It's a very good show, and it's a bummer that the last day had to be canceled due to that. And I hope next year comes back with, they make up for it next year for the last day being gone. That would be great.
These airplanes are fantastic. The maneuvers, the way they just do their acrobatics, so to speak, that these planes do is absolutely incredible. The power, the speed, the loudness, it's all adrenaline. It's awesome. Apparently there was an oil spill yesterday. I don't know the exact time, but we were out on anchor watching the air show, and you can smell it. The first signs was obviously the fume smell off the water, and a friend of mine was out with me with his wife. She got really sick, and so they had to leave and go in, and so and then we started smelling it, and then we're just noticing, and all of a sudden it's just, you can see the oil floating past the boats, and it was disgusting. It was really, really nasty. My son started pulling the anchor rope, and about 15, maybe 20 feet of our anchor rope was just loaded with the oil all over it. He couldn't pull the anchor in. It was very difficult. And so he would pull in 3-4 feet, and it would slip out of his hands, and he would get 3 or 4 inches at a time in.
In a statement, Huntington Beach officials reported that an estimated 126,000 gallons of oil seeped from a broken pipeline, forming oil slicks that were carried into beaches and wetlands. In response, the city mobilized its incident management team to carry out repairs and to commence with the cleaning of contaminated waters. According to the U.S. Coast Guard, the size of the oil spill is roughly 13 square miles.
Surfers are in the water, and but they're kind of like saying, almost like enter at your own risk and stuff.
I'm here usually every day fishing as well, but I'm taking, I don't want to put my pole in the water. I don't want that, mess on my line, or they shouldn't either, but it's up to them. And I would be careful when they catch that fish, make sure that it's, be okay. I love the wildlife here. Like I said, I'm very friendly with, there's like a few birds that I'm friendly with, and they're very, they come right up to me. And some of we have a seal, some dolphins, and right now I know they're being affected right now.
It's a big mess. The wildlife, everything's going to be affected. Businesses, all of it. It's sad at the end of the day.
I think the town lost millions of dollars canceling it, and I think I'm not sure what an oil spill in the ocean has to do with an air show, because the beach is open today. So just tell people to stay out of the water and run the air show. I think you got a lot of friendly people here. I mean, like I said, the air show is what it is. They canceled it. Those are the powers to be. So it is what it is, But yeah, no, it's a friendly town. Very friendly, safe town. And I love it here. It's great.
Huntington Beach, California. It's known for, it's a good surf spot. They do have the surf competitions here annually, I believe. And yeah, it's a very beautiful beach right here in the middle of Orange County.
It's a nice day. There's surfers out. There's, I'm sure, food booths. There's something that we'll enjoy.
There's so much stuff to do down here. The food's great. People are friendly. It's a beautiful town. You guys need to come out here and visit it. Learn how to surf. Enjoy the sun, the people, the food, especially the food. Obviously, I'm a food guy.
What the impact is on the local economy, wildlife, and the environment due to the oil leak remains to be seen. But for now, the beach is open, and there are plenty of people enjoying the sun and sand. In Huntington Beach, California, Eva Basayahe, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Now, there was a beach cleanup drive in Manama, Bahrain, and we have Florine Kalimdim taking us there.
Aiming for a healthier and more pleasant place to live, work, and play is one of the utmost goals of the Capital Governorate under its annual event, Manama Healthy City Program. Right now, we are here at the Jufair Beach for the beach cleanup drive. The Capital Governorate continues to encourage its community to maintain the cleanliness of the beaches and coastlines of the Kingdom of Bahrain. This is an annual event launched by the said governorate under the patronage of His Excellency Sheikh Hisham Al Khalifa.
So basically, Manama was awarded by WHO as a Manama Healthy City. This program was under umbrella of World Health Organization, and at the Capital Governorate, we were very keen to meet the standards that already assigned in this program. So part of the initiative is to save the environment and try to protect the environment in the capital. So we are very glad that one of the things that we should have is engaging the volunteers in our initiatives and activities, especially in the environment. In 2015, we launched a project called Green Capital Project. So Green Capital Project was basically to have initiatives to promote eco-friendly projects within the city. But we are at the Capital Governorate with the leadership of His Excellency, the Governor of Capital Governorate. We are very keen to develop the city in general and to raise the standard of living to the community. And one of the aspects is the community partnership. That's why here we are engaging with all the NGOs and volunteers from different nationalities to develop the standard of living in the kingdom, and especially the capital governorate. We are in Bahrain, we have a lot of communities, but we all live in harmony. As you can see, the majority of volunteers, they are from different nationalities, and you see less Bahraini, but we treat them as one community. And I recommend and advise them to keep their environment safe and clean, because at the end, if they keep themselves clean and safe, everyone will be safe.
In support of Mr. Yusuf Yaqub Lori, Director of Information and Follow-up at the Capital Governorate, and in cooperation with Good Cause Bahrain Group, headed by Ms. Antoinette Avila. Various environmental and professional groups are among the volunteers and organizations seen in the event, from different nationalities and different ages.
Kami po sa Embahada ng Pilipinas dito sa bansang Bahrain ay nalulugod na makiisa sa 2021 Manama Healthy City Program, no? So ito po ay inorganisa ng Capital Governorate ng bansang Bahrain at ng Good Cause Group, no? So ilan po sa mga namumuno ng grupo na yan ay mga kababayan po natin o miyembro ng Filipino community dito sa Bahrain. At in fact, marami sa mga nag-participate ngayong hapon na ito ay mga kababayan po natin. Iba't ibang grupo, iba't ibang organisasyon ng ating Filipino community dito sa Bahrain. Kaya kami po ay nagagalak na makiisa at natutuwa po tayo na ipakita ang ating suporta sa lokal na pamahalaan ng Bahrain, lalong-lalo na po dito sa Capital Governorate, no? Nagagalak po tayo na makiisa sa pag-aadvokasya na panatiliin na malinis ang ating kapaligiran, ang ating mga dagat lalong-lalo na. At ang hinahangad po namin ay hindi lang sa makatulong sa paglilinis mismo, no, kundi makatulong din sa pagpapalaganap ng kaalaman, lalo na sa mga susunod na henerasyon. That's why the embassy is participating in these kinds of events. So we want to urge everybody to help keep our environment clean as much as possible. Throw your trash in the proper places and not just anywhere, especially not in the beaches, because it will affect our oceans and our environment. No.
My name is Queenie Galarpe. I'm representing the Naval Support Activity Bahrain. I'm originally from the Philippines, but I am from California. I'm representing the Good Cause to be part of this environmental cleanup of Bahrain, and we do this in order to give back to the community and build up community relations.
Ako si Miss Alma de Vera Ramos. Ang organization namin is Philippine Bahrain Caregiver Society in cooperation with Al-Wali Training and Services dito sa Bahrain. Ang advocacy namin is we rise by lifting others, but yung goal namin is to spread or enhance ang caregiving as a course para sa ating kababayan dito sa bansang Bahrain para ma-uplift din o maitaas ang mga kabuhayan nila. Nakipag-coordinate din kami dito sa Filipino Club para makatulong dito sa Clean Drive dahil gusto nating ang environment natin ay malinis para sa ating health health advocacy din natin. Para pagka mas malinis, mas masarap mabuhay sa malinis na environment.
Joining a cleanup drive advocacy is very important, either you are in your own country or not, since this is a worldwide concern. So to have a better place to live, a healthier and a more pleasant atmosphere for the next generation, keep maintaining a community clean as one of your top priorities. This is Lorlin Kalimlim, your Eagle News correspondent from Bahrain, and we live in interesting times.
More stories when Eagle News returns.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, Gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsabling panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Broadcast journalist Wang de la Fuente returns on Philippine television and radio to deliver top stories and engage with the country's policymakers, shapers, and movers. Tatalakayin ang mga pangunahing balita live sa teleradyo ng Net25 at Radyo Aguila DCEC 1062. Kasama si Wang de la Fuente sa
At itong balitalakayan, we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. Irish Finance Minister Pascal Donovan announced that the Republic will back plans for a global 15% rate of corporation tax, ending its holdout position against OECD-led reform efforts. Speaking in Dublin, Donovan says Ireland has accepted it will raise its low 12.5% rate, which since 2003 has lured large tech and pharma firms to the country. With the OECD plan is designed to stop multinationals slashing their tax bills by basing offices in jurisdictions with low rates. Take a look.
This is the right decision. It is a sensible and a pragmatic decision made by the government in the interests of our country, and ultimately a decision that I believe will be critical to conditions to create longer-term certainty for businesses and investors, which in turn will be to the benefit of many thousands of employees in the future. Our focus over recent weeks has been to secure the necessary changes to provide certainty and stability in the revised framework and to protect our strategic interests. I believe we have now reached that point. I have, however, indicated now for some time that there will be a cost to the Exchequer arising from the agreement. While the final cost is very difficult to predict, the Department of Finance and the Revenue Commissioner have estimated that the cost of the agreement will be, as I have said before, up to €2 billion when both pillars come into effect.
Finance ministers from wealthy G7 nations in June endorsed a global minimum corporate tax rate of at least 15% reached in the framework of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD. It was approved by the G20 in July and has so far been signed by more than 130 countries except for Hungary. The pact also resolves a spat between the US and countries such as the UK and France, which had threatened a digital tax on big, mainly American tech firms. Oxfam has said a 15% tax rate is still too low and would do little or nothing to end harmful tax competition. It believes it should pay at least 25% wherever they are based.
Britain's finance minister unveiled measures to help people find jobs after the government came under attack for ending a furlough scheme that kept millions employed during the pandemic. Here's Patricia Rodriguez.
Britain's finance minister unveiled on Monday measures to help people find jobs after the government came under attack for ending a furlough scheme that kept millions employed during the pandemic. In his debut in-person address to the Conservative Party annual conference as finance minister, Rishi Sunak announced the government would extend programs created during the outbreak to get people into work. His ministry said the full package was worth £500 million and would include retraining older workers coming off furlough and younger Britons. Prime Minister Boris Johnson's government has spent almost £70 billion on paying the bulk of wages for staff stuck at home, helping to keep the unemployment rate relatively low. But the furlough scheme ended last Thursday, which Sunak accepted would lead to job losses, while a weekly boost to benefits for the lowest paid workers was also being scrapped. The Chancellor insists that it is time to transition to longer-term support against objections by opposition parties and campaigners that the changes will plunge many people deeper into poverty. Here's the direct statement of British Finance Minister Rishi Sunak shared at the party conference.
There can be no prosperous future unless it is built on the foundation of strong public finances. I have to be blunt with you. Our recovery comes with a cost. Our national debt is almost 100% of GDP, so we need to fix our public finances. And whilst I know tax rises are unpopular, some will even say unconservative, I'll tell you what is unconservative. Unfunded pledges, reckless borrowing and soaring debt. Anyone who tells you that you can borrow more today and tomorrow will simply sort itself out just doesn't care about the future. So yes, I want tax cuts, but in order to do that, our public finances must be put back on a sustainable footing. And right now, we are facing challenges to supply chains, not just here, but right around the world, and we are determined to tackle them head on. I can confirm that we are expanding our successful plan for jobs into next year. The Kickstart scheme, extra support through the youth offer, the job entry targeted support scheme, and our apprenticeship incentives, all extended because we believe in the awesome power of opportunity, and we are going to make sure that no young person in our country is left without it.
Official data last week showed Britain's economy rebounded more strongly than expected in the second quarter, but separate indicators point to a growth slowdown as the country struggles with the supply chain bottleneck and global inflationary pressures that have sent fuel prices rocketing. Businesses blame the fuel shortage on the government's hardline approach to Brexit, which stopped a flow of workers from Eastern Europe. But ministers say the pandemic is to blame. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I'm Patricia Rodriguez. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, soccer legend Landon Donovan is memorialized as the LA Galaxy takes on their crosstown rival, LAFC, at Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. Here's Alan and Eva Basilyahe from our EBC Los Angeles Bureau.
Before the matchup today between the LA Galaxy and LAFC,
Galaxy great Landon Donovan was honored with his very own statue at Legends Plaza here at Dignity Health Sports Park.
Every time I showed up to the stadium, you guys made me feel accepted, wanted, desired to be out there on the field, and you pushed me. And I love seeing the league what it is today, but you guys were all here from the beginning, and I appreciate you guys.
You just kind of remember his games, the way he used to play. He was always a sharpshooter. He was always looking for a perfect opportunity, and he always got it.
He was the best number one. He was the Captain America. That's how we describe him. He always been good. I think he's the best player we got. Too bad he's not playing anymore.
Not only is Landon Donovan a LA Galaxy legend, but also a USA legend, providing many memories for us.
for the U.S. and LA Galaxy itself. I mean, he's a legend, and we can't really, I can't really explain how much he's done for us in the community. He was raised in the same he was raised in the same city as me in Ontario, and I'm very grateful that we had someone like him to provide us many memories.
Donovan, along with a crowd of over 25,000, settled in for the match between the crosstown rivals. At the 11th minute mark of the first half, it was LAFC who was on the board first when Edward Atuesta's corner kick connected with teammate Mamadou Fala, who put the ball in with a header. But in the 19th minute, Vasquez received the ball just below the center circle and delivered a beautiful pass to a cutting Grancier, who blew past LAFC's goalkeeper for a relatively clear shot into the net. Both teams continued to be aggressive for the rest of the match, but ultimately neither could break the stalemate. The game ended in a draw.
I think if Galaxy plays the way they played today, but keep their head a little bit cooler and just play more like a team, I feel like the offense especially are trying to do too much on their own. If they just focus on playing together and getting to the back of the net, then they'll end up winning most of their remaining games.
And I'm simplistic when it comes to that, and to get more in the win column just means like she said, offense, keeping a cool head, keeping it together, and then just doing the work to get the ball in the back of the net. Put ball in the back of the net, the defense does their job in keeping the other team from scoring. Then it just means it comes down to just which team is actually better.
Yeah, we both got pretty upset about the tie, because I mean, you never want to see like a Clásico like this end in a tie. You always want your team to win, And so, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks, but I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. If it was like a championship game and they had to go to overtime or like PKs, I think it would have been more intense, more fun to watch. But I mean, it's part of the game.
Despite Donovan's urging to beat LAFC, the LA Galaxy will have to settle for the tie.
But regardless of the outcome, this rivalry match still delivered the competitive energy that soccer fans crave.
In Carson, California, Evan Allen, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Finally, here's MJ Decajo with an exclusive interview with Ronnie Del Carmen, Oscar-nominated Filipino director at Pixar.
Who's behind Oscar-nominated Inside Out? I had a one-on-one interview with Oscar-nominated co-director Ronnie Del Carmen. Take a look.
Here we go. All right, open.
This looks new.
Think it's safe?
What is it?
Okay, caution. There is a dangerous smell, people. Hold on, what is that?
This is disgust. She basically keeps Riley from being poisoned, physically and socially.
That is not brightly colored or shaped like a dinosaur. Hold on, guys. It's broccoli!
Oh, moving forward with this amazing career of yours, particularly you were nominated for the Oscars. Share us your work in Inside Out, and where did you get the concept? I know one of the story, you were the supervisor of that, and then you also co-directed it.
I'm the co-director of the movie, and my partnership is with the director, Pete Docter, who I've worked with before when we made Up. And that was such a great partnership. He invited me to be his co-director on his next movie, which became Inside Out. And Inside Out was Pete Docter's idea that came from a moment wherein he was wondering why his daughter, Ellie, whom we know because we lived in the same city here in Oakland. We were neighbors, and my daughter would babysit his kids. And then at some point, his daughter, Ellie, was more quiet and more kind of not as cheerful as she used to be. And he was wondering, like, what happened to my little girl who used to just bounce around happy and talkative, and everything was about daddy this, daddy, daddy, daddy. And then that just stopped. So as a parent, he wondered, what's going on? What happened to my kid? What's going on inside her head? And that meant that he wanted to find out. And the best way for Pete Docter to find out is to make a movie about it.
Wow,
because you will get lots of answers because you're going to be able to talk to people who are experts on the brain, emotion, psychology, psychiatry. We got educated as to what emotions are.
that's so clever, Ronnie.
As I get older, I feel the need to be able to tell stories that I feel is relevant to me, because having grown up in the Philippines and left it when I was already turning 30, I felt like I've let go of my connection to my native country, and then because of that, I've grown distance from it. I don't understand it as well as I feel I need to. The moment is that it kind of indicts me. It's like traveling through Southeast Asia and finding that my connection to all of these nations in Southeast Asia is very, very powerful.
I just saved our lives. Yeah, you're welcome.
Riley, if you don't eat your dinner, you're not going to get any dessert.
Wait, did he just say we couldn't have dessert?
That's anger. He cares very deeply about things being fair.
So that's how you want to play it, old man? No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this.
Right. Here comes an airplane.
Oh, airplane. We got an airplane, everybody.
Until next time, tune in to Ego News. MJ Ricardo here. We live in interesting times.
Thank you so much, MJ. We are going to be watching that this weekend. That's it for today. That's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us this whole week. It is the weekend. We'll see you on Monday. I'm CJ Hero.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. We'll see you back next week. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.
This is Net 25, a commercial UHF television station owned and operated by the Eagle Broadcasting Corporation, transmitting on a 50 kilowatt output with NTC permit number BSD-0184-2020-0452, authorizing this station to operate until July 12, 2023. Net 25 studios and transmitter are located at number 25 Central Avenue, New Era, Quezon City. Net 25 is headed by the following personnel, duly licensed by the Professional Regulation Commission and the National Telecommunications Commission. Professional Electronics Engineer Armando C. Bonifacio Jr., PECE 838. Professional Electronics Engineer Bernard N. Pangulayan, PECE 869. Professional Electronics Engineer Randy A. Velasco, PECE 555. Electronics Engineer Erickson D. Ventura, ECE 44844. Electronics Engineer Arturo F. Pascua Jr., ECE 43934. Electronics Engineer Adrian V. Augusto, ECE 59367. With first-class radio telephone operators, Enrico V. Erbite, 94-1RTG-7204. Gracious V. Pascual, 92-3PNCR-352. Modesto V. De Vera, 96-1PNCR-18494. Frets C. Moliena, 93-1PVI-6551. This is Net 25. Now signing off. Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine National Anthem.
Bayang magiliw, pero sa silangan.